Got a lot of questions coming in. Hot and heavy on this Blazers team. What's your feeling if Billups were to re-sign if the Blazers try to extend him? Is he too upset about the lack of commitment heading into the offseason? That text coming in.
I don't think in any of these kind of instances that the emotion plays too much into it, whether it's coach or player, if the money and the relationship makes sense. Now, you don't get me wrong, you can definitely burn out. But one thing you do have to remember and consider as it pertains to Chauncey Billups and Joe Cronin, these guys have known each other since high school. And no matter how contentious the stuff gets, there's always the business side of it and there's the personal side of it. And those, they have a genuinely very good relationship. They have known each other for a very long time. They played against each other in high school. They are both Denver area guys. And, Chauncey could have made a change when Neil was fired. He didn't make that change.
Yep.
He stood by him in a sense. And you could say, well, if he stood by him, he would have given him an extension. I understand why everybody wanted to make the move at the beginning of the season. I was very much against making that move because what I thought was going to happen was this year was going to be another tough year. And even though they're better than I thought they were going to be, it's still a tough year. They still only have, 26, 27 wins? This isn't a team that's...
Get one tonight.
Yeah, right. Well, it is a back-to-back, and they off an overtime.
27 and 34 on the season.
Yeah, one game behind the Miami Heat. Just a little side note. But I think the door is cracked open for a potential return, but I think what they were more likely to do is to move on and do a full coaching search. That is my belief at this point.
Yeah, and as Bob points out on the YouTube stream, that's kind of the frustrating part of this season as well. If this season was a lame duck year and he's not going to be here moving forward, then
why not move on?
Moving on is, again, his identity is now imprinted on this team, and you're going to change the voice and you're going to change the direction of it. That's what happens when a new head coach comes in.
My pushback to that is bringing in a new coach in a year where you're not going to be very good is not a good idea. It is not a good idea.
Why not bring in a coach for growth then at that point?
Well, that's what Chauncey is.
Yeah,
but was he? Because he was a coach with exactly one season on a bench.
But hold on, this was the entire plan. They knew they were giving him a roster that was not ready to compete. When he took the job, Damian Lillard was still a part of the plan.
I feel like we're all chasing our tails here.
It was still part of the plan moving. Yes, they are. There's no doubt about that. Yeah. That's the frustrating part about it.
And that's my point.
When they went to the rebuild, it was under the idea, Chauncey, you know it, we know it, we all know it. This ain't the job you took.
Yeah, no, and he has said as much publicly.
He took this job thinking, all right,
we're going to build
around Damian
from
Lillard.
His buddy.
We're going to build this job around Damian Lillard, and we're going to move forward with a roster, not contending roster, a roster that, if it turns over, can contend. Dame said, nope, deuces, I'm out. And then everything changed, and he's been handed a loser, knowingly handed a loser. Then they did not go out, give him the extension because the identity just wasn't there. And the progress was so small.
Yeah.
Playing hard was what he was getting guys to do. Now you're starting to see all the work that he's put in starting to pay off, and he won't be here. In all likelihood. And
here's my pushback on this is we'll use the team that they just played in Cleveland. JB Bickerstaff was the coach that took them from a team that wasn't that good to a team that was pretty damn good. And now Kenny Atkinson is carrying on that identity and adding his own flavor to that. JB Bickerstaff goes to a bad Detroit team, and now Detroit is pulling itself up. But
JB Bickerstaff has an established history as well.
Well, yeah, you only get those established histories? Coaching. That's how it happens. You go and you do it and you learn on the job. That's what happens. There are different coaches for different roles. And I'm surprised this hasn't been explored more publicly. Mike Budenholzer and Frank Vogel in Phoenix are both title-winning coaches. They were brought in for a team in Phoenix that was supposed to be a title-contending kind of team, right? You've got Devin Booker, you've got Kevin Durant. We can all laugh about what they are.
Because those guys will not respond to the hard ass as well.
Yeah, I think it's a different situation. But
there's the adage of you have to, in order to win a ring and win a championship, you have to have the respect of the locker room. You can't get the respect of the locker room until you have a ring. That's why you bring in a Budenholzer and a Vogel, because they already have the ring.
Yep.
And they're still not getting the respect in that locker room, which is
But you look around the NBA, and there are certain coaches that are better at developing with younger teams.
Yeah.
And like, much like we talk about with assistant coaches, and the idea of like you go be a head coach in the NFL and it doesn't work out and you realize you're a coordinator, that's okay. And that realization is starting to become a very real thing in the NFL. I think every NBA coach thinks, if I just had a chance and if I was just a head guy, I could take a team to the finals or whatever it is. When in reality, there are coaches that are better suited for taking a team from scratch and getting them to feasibility. And there are better coaches that are better at taking a team from viable teams to contending teams. And there are very few and select coaches that are good at taking a team from respectability, above respectability / contending teams to title contending teams. I think the perfect example of this is in Golden State. Mark Jackson gets crapped on and Steve Kerr gets all the credit. If you talk to any of those players, they will all tell you the same thing. They would not be where they were with Steve Kerr without Mark Jackson.
Yep.
It's the same thing with this Cavs team. Even though they butted heads with JB, they will all tell you that JB got them to where they are.
And you saw it in The Last Dance. They said the same thing about Doug Collins in Chicago.
Yes.
But right before Phil Jackson. All right. And all of this is to say, it has all led to a frustrating season for the Blazers in a lot of ways for this team.